Welcome to the Chico Creates podcast, where we interview local artists, musicians, and makers here in Chico, California. I'm your host, Kira Barsodi, and at the top of the show, I wanted to shout out our regular monthly sponsors. So this show is completely funded by community members and people like you who are enjoying the show. And some of those folks today are Melissa Theed, Kay Bacchus, Dave and LaShawn Montoya, Jonathan Greenfield, Heather Leveroni, Christian Davila, Kaylee Huber, Troy German, Kate Thurkill, Kat Johns, Bonnie Pipkin, and Lindsay Hook. Thank you so much to those folks who have been loyal supporters of the podcast almost since the beginning. We're coming up on our first birthday in July. And if you'd like to be added to that list, it's easy enough. We've got links and just go become a donor. And now on to the show. With me today is Amma Posey. Amma is an abstract painter, illustrator, and founder of Amma Posey Studios here in Chico, an art school for children, teens, and adults. She splits her time between Chico and Sacramento, where she lives with her partner and 2 children who are always the root of her artistic aspirations. Welcome.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
Of course. So happy to get you finally.
I know. I'm busy.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Especially this season is nuts.
Yeah. I feel like every season is nuts, but yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, running an art school and your own fine art practice is a lot, and managing a family, and we'll get into it.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about yourself beyond the bio.
I mean, beyond the bio, my bio really is the core of who I am. You know, my kids and my business and my partner are really my whole life. Mm-hmm. I guess in my spare time, which I squeeze in the mornings, is, I weightlift. I like to hike. I like to be outside as much as possible. But really I feel like my whole life is really my family and my work. And
that is plenty.
That is me. Yeah. And it is a full, beautiful life.
Yes. Love it.
Yeah.
So how long have you lived in Chico?
It's been about 18 years now, which is really crazy. I moved here and kind of on a whim. Mm-hmm. And then I got pregnant mm-hmm. and I'm now co-parenting. And so I'm here for the next, 6-7 years until my kids are grown. Mm-hmm. But I've been here for a long time now. So I feel like a local at this point.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. You've earned that status.
Yeah, totally.
And so your kids are keeping you here for now.
Yeah, my kids are really keeping me here for now. And, honestly, now my business is.
Yeah.
I would love to expand it to another city eventually mm-hmm. and maybe do both locations. But, I'm really enjoying putting down roots with my art school here as well. That's kind of been a nice refresher to being in Chico for so long.
Yeah, for sure. And when did that start, the art school?
I got my art degree in 2014, and then I took a big break from making art in general because I became a single mom and I needed to get a full-time job. And mm-hmm. I knew that creating art was something that was going to completely take over my life. It's a very immersive thing. Mm-hmm. And so I held off on it because I knew that it was going to take over my life. And in early 2020, I told myself, I think it was January 2020, I was like, this is going to be my year that I start making work again, because if it's not now, I'm just going to keep putting it off for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So I started by doing a silly, I really thrive with accountability.
Yes.
So I put something out there on Instagram and I was like, I'm going to paint every day. And this is this is my new project. I'm going to get back into painting. And so I did that. And I got a little artist residency at Monca. And that was in March of 2020.
Uh-huh.
And then when I got laid off from my job a couple weeks later, mm-hmm. I was like, oh my gosh, it's my chance.
Yeah.
And so I started my business during the pandemic. In March of 2020, I decided at the end of it. And then when I got laid off, or maybe mm-hmm. it was April. And then I just hit the ground running. Yeah. And I launched my first art class in September of 2020. So
wow.
It was a lot in a really short period of time, but it was kind of just this intense energy, like I knew it would be.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So,
well, and it was like, this is the time we're all in kind of a thing.
Yes.
Sounds like, yeah.
Yes, totally. And so I had already kind of had the ball rolling a little bit with getting back into my practice.
Right.
So
yeah. And that first launch, I'm assuming that was a virtual class, or did you have it in person?
I did have it in person. I did really small groups.
Okay.
I did like classes of like 3 to 5. Mm-hmm. And then I also did a lot of classes outside at 5 Mile.
Okay.
Which was really cool.
Yeah.
I still do that on occasion just to kind of do a little throwback.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm always really grateful now that I have a studio because I'm like, damn, that was a lot of work.
Yeah.
To trek all that stuff out there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah. And I know your classes are obviously in person now. And so, I was curious about that. And that makes sense and it, I think, also helps kind of maybe helped limit it to start small and be able to, go from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, and I kind of had low expectations of myself because one, I wasn't very confident, which I look back now and I'm like, if there was one thing I could change, I would have more faith in myself.
Yeah. But you've proven it at this point.
I've proven it at this point. I'm like, damn, okay, I'm more badass than I thought I was. Uh-huh. But yeah. And so I didn't really, all I wanted to do was to not get another job. Yeah. Like that was my goal. Mm-hmm. So it was like, okay, as long as the bills are paid, I'm going to be okay, know? Mm-hmm. And so it was this kind of like fear-based thing in the beginning. And I'm a single mom and I don't have any financial support from anyone else. So like my children's livelihood falls on my shoulders. Right, so it felt huge. So there was a huge element of fear in it. And I was like, it didn't feel like I was starting small in the beginning. It felt like a really huge deal that I was even doing something and I was able to, provide for my children and provided for us. And so, I guess, I did start small now looking back, but it didn't feel that way.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even, like the class sizes were small, but there's a massive movement for you going on.
Yes. Getting past that resistance.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Obviously, we will keep digging into all that, but I have to ask my obligatory, what is your favorite spot to hang out in town?
I was thinking about that question, and I think that I just have to say the park. You know, I mean, I think it's hands down the best thing about Chico.
Yeah.
We're so lucky. I go to Sacramento often and I'm like, where's the hiking?
Yeah.
Like I just love nature so much and we're so lucky to have the creek and Upper Park.
Yeah.
So 100% when I have free time, I'm like, get me to the park.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's some legit hikes up in there too. If you want gains, there's gains.
Yes. All of it. Treacherous or chill.
Yep.
Either way.
You got all your options.
Yeah.
So you do have a BFA, right?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a BFA. I got in 2014, and I actually just accepted a master's.
Oh, that's exciting.
Spotted a master's program at Sac State.
Awesome.
In the fall.
Wow. So adding more to your plate.
Just
keep it rolling.
Just scaling up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm really excited about putting my art practice back on the forefront because the art school has been a creative project, but also I see myself as a teaching artist. That's really how I want to run my school. Mm-hmm. And so I can just see this super benefiting what I'm already doing because
Absolutely.
The further I dive into my practice, I feel like the better my offerings are in the art school.
Absolutely.
So it's going to be nuts, but I'm all about that kind of like crazy energy.
Yeah. Well, and it all feeds itself and each other, all the different facets. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It does really lend to the other thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is particularly interesting to me. The combination of you have your fine art practice and your art school and your classes and everything. How have you balanced that? Like,
that's a great question.
Yeah.
It has been by far, balance has been the hardest thing in this whole endeavor, and something that I'm still really always fine-tuning and refining. And I think that, I was thinking about it this morning actually, and I'm like, how do I balance that? And a pattern that I've looked back on is I've always kind of taken myself out of my home, like my hometown, to make my work. So I found that if I really segregate the art school, even just in terms of like place,
sure,
and my practice, it's really helpful to me. So I find that like I'm really distracted when I'm here, when I'm trying to work on my practice unless I've already kind of cracked that initial shell of like, what is this deep idea I'm trying to explore?
Right. And then you're just implementing.
Yeah. When I'm like in a work groove, I can do that. When I'm just kind of like going through the process of like the details of a piece or the details of a body of work. But when I feel like I'm really diving in and getting to that deep place of creative flow, I need to be away. So to do that, I, for the last 2 years, I had an art studio that I got in San Francisco.
Oh, cool.
And so I was working between Chico and San Francisco, which was also intense.
Yeah.
It's just how I roll, apparently.
Yeah.
I just love kind of like sucking everything I can out of life. Like, what more could I do?
Yeah.
I just find it really exciting. So I got a studio in San Francisco in the Mission, and that really helped me propel my art practice more than I have yet since I started to make work again. So I was able to go there for even like 3 or 4 days, and I could make like a whole series of work, in that amount of time. So I was working in San Francisco for 2 years, and then I recently gave that up over this past summer, and that's when I got a residency in Kansas, artist residency in Kansas, which was really fun.
Awesome.
I was able to create all the illustration. I started to do illustration, which was something I never. It was kind of like I knew I always wanted to do it, but it was on the to-do list. And I never knew when I was going to get to it.
Right.
So when I had 2 weeks in Kansas, I was like, it's time to just explore it. So I ended up making 150 illustrations.
Awesome.
That was so fun.
Yes.
And I created a coloring book out of it. And now I'm publishing a book, a coffee table book of all the drawings that are.
I love that.
That I did in Kansas. So getting away is the key for me.
Yeah.
My partner lives in Sacramento, so we go back and forth between each other's houses. And I will often just take my studio with me to their house. And I work in Sacramento, and now it's going to be so freaking great to have a studio at Sac State. So that's kind of how I'm keeping the balance going.
Yeah.
And doing both.
Awesome. So it sounds like you really need like time and space where you can just focus completely on your fine art practice.
Yes, and solitude.
Yes, yeah.
I can't really it's really about tapping into a quiet place for me and letting kind of a higher power move through me. So it's really like connected to my spiritual practice, and for that I need like really deep alone time.
Yes.
Where I can like
no distractions,
and I can really like connect and get all emotional or do whatever I need to do within my own space for a few days,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. And that's great that you figured it out. So so many people, I think, try to live their life and make their art or do whatever their creative pursuit is.
Totally.
And they need it really sounds like you know yourself and you know what you need and you're willing to do what it takes to give yourself that.
Yeah.
Too, which is really important.
Yeah. And you don't find that until you
try a bunch of things.
You try a bunch of things that don't work. And it's this kind of like hustle to get there. You know, it's like this gritty process, because I do think that starting somewhere, anywhere is really the way, and it's not like waiting to start until you've figured out this great system. You come up with the system as you're going through the things that don't work.
Exactly.
So I've found that through kind of a grueling effort, to be totally honest. Like I've really worked hard to find that for myself,
For sure.
So yeah, but I want to encourage people always to just start, make something, even if it doesn't feel like it's the end result, or even if it doesn't feel like it's your preferred way of working. It's like, just freaking make and make and make until you can fine tune that shit.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you won't know until you start. That's the thing. It's
exactly.
Like you've got to start down the path before you can reroute and
exactly. And that whole thing about having it perfect and having it all figured out beforehand is it's the total buzz killer.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the biggest, I think the biggest thing to resistance to making your work.
Yeah. For sure. Needing everything set up. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's 100% something that in my own personal practice I've had to contend with.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us do.
Yeah. I think that any creative who is really in a state of doing it has had to go through that. It's a very normal thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just for, all of life. So many people wait for circumstances to align before they follow whatever dream they have.
Yeah.
And that's just not the way the world works.
Yeah, 100%. I know. Think about how much more creative our world would be if people just didn't resist, you know, and they were able to just start and do something and let themselves kind of like, I want that. I want that for people so much, you know, to not let them stop themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that's really what it is using these outside circumstances as an excuse to 100%. Avoid, you know, your own blocks.
Yeah. The work.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
And all the fear associated with that.
Yeah, there's that. There is definitely that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I am curious about the illustrations. I noticed they popped up just in the last, I mean, you had the residency. How long ago was that?
It was in, when was it? It was in the beginning of September.
Okay. Yeah. I was going to say like within the last half year or so, I noticed them showing up. And there, it feels like a totally different avenue of your work.
Yeah, I had a total existential crisis while I was there. I was like, oh my God, who even am I? Like, you know, because I got really excited about it. I mean, it's the age-old thing where you're like, oh, I'm not good at drawing people. I can't draw people. I'm an abstract artist. These are all things I told myself for 2 decades.
Right.
You know, I'm an abstract artist. And in the back of my mind, it's like, because I can't draw people, you know, and it's like, that's totally not true.
Yeah.
First of all, it's like not at all what I ever tell my students. It's like, well, I'm not good at it because I don't practice. I'm not trying to be a realist. I'm not trying to draw a person for what they look like. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, let's just see what comes out of me if I try to draw the people that I love. Like, yeah. So that's what this project was about, that I was drawing a list of 150 people that supported me back home.
That's amazing.
It was fun. It was really fun because it really knocked down a lot of walls for me in terms of what I thought I was capable of. Mm-hmm. And it's just so funny how that never really goes away. Like you always have limits that you put on yourself and you don't realize until you start kind of going for it.
Yeah.
But I definitely did have a little bit of a identity crisis. I was like, I've always really identified as an abstract painter, and I didn't realize how much I placed that worth on my work.
Right.
But it's been really fun to just expand and not feel like I have to identify with one thing. Mm-hmm. And really, that's such a great practice in creativity in itself, is that I can just make something that I'm not normally known for. And that's totally fucking fine.
Yeah.
It's okay.
No, yes, okay. It's fine. Yeah, it's Sorry, totally kids. Okay.
Okay.
And yeah, no, I love it. It's really inspiring to me personally. I've been getting a lot of like pulls to get back into my comic art.
I love
like,
that. Yes.
All my made up worlds and aliens and things that I invented in my, you know, tweens and teens that don't feel like true art, you know?
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
How we like place a worth on that stuff.
And we categorize them. It's that same, you know, craft versus art divide.
Yes.
And I'm 100% anti that divide, but I still have my own block when it comes to my world building stuff. You know?
I feel the exact same way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
I can't wait to see your comics.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Cool. I know. I'm working on this Oracle deck, and that's kind of
awesome.
in, you know, with the little contained pieces, feels like it's moving that direction. Like when that project's done, then I can bring in the comics again.
That's rad. An Oracle deck is such a cool project.
It's been really fun.
I can't wait to buy one when you're done.
Thank you.
So cool. That's rad.
I will for sure be plugging that as things progress.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm looking to expand my class offerings too. Mm-hmm. So if you ever would like to teach a comic class.
Oh, yeah.
That would be a cool collaboration.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah.
For sure.
I'm trying to offer more class offerings in my studio. So looking for other artists.
Bringing in other teachers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Other artists to come in and teach their skills. So
if
you're ever interested.
Awesome. Well, that's a great plug for the community too.
Yeah. If anyone else is ever interested too, I'm looking for artists who are really in their practice that I want to bring in to offer what they love and offering classes around that.
Very cool.
Especially when I start grad school in the fall.
Yes. Yeah. You're going to need some support. Exactly. Yeah. So do you have any studio rituals or routines, either as it relates to your fine art or your running your classes and school?
Yeah. You know, it's different every time, but I think the thing that is always consistent in my painting practice, and even when I was making the illustrations, I feel like it is so deeply connected with a higher power and my spiritual practice that it's really important for me to kind of like get out in nature and walk out kind of my ideas at first. And that's something that I do often, even when I'm like kind of coming up with ideas about the school is I kind of work out ideas as I'm moving outside in nature, and then I'll kind of bring it back into the studio. I'll kind of know exactly what I'll need to do. I get these kind of like downloads that I'm like, it's this, this, and this, and I'm certain of it. And then I go back into the studio and just get to it. But rituals really beyond that, I don't think so, other than I need to make sure that I'm always like exercised, hydrated, fed, and I've gotten enough sleep. And as long as those like 4 pillars are in line, I'm like able to really receive what I need to do for my practice, you know? So really it's a lot about self-care, you know, because I don't know, it's just, it doesn't come through if you're not taking care of yourself.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah.
So I learned that the hard way too.
Yes. Yeah. Setting good boundaries. It kind of goes back to your need for no distractions and quiet for the fine art practice. Like, and then it's setting boundaries on yourself to make sure that you do check all those self-care boxes, you know?
Yeah.
So there is a discipline involved.
There really is. I find that I have to be really disciplined to kind of run my life.
Yeah.
You know, there's not a lot of wiggle room.
Right.
For what I want to do anyway.
Right. Right.
So.
And then, that it makes it all that much more important to take the time to be exercised and fed and hydrated and everything.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
And sleep.
Sleep is huge.
Yeah, those things tend to be the first to go, I think, for a lot of people, ironically.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. And you can really get in this like production mode. And then when you start to feel bad, it's like, oh yeah, forgot to drink water all day.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so making sure that those things are really in line, and then everything else can kind of, you leave room for creativity.
Yeah.
Right? That's how creativity can foster.
Time and space.
Time and space. Yep.
Yep. So what is the best part about being an artist in Chico?
You know, it's a small pond, you know, and it's really beautiful how such a small community can really embraces artists.
Yes.
I've found that that's a really special thing, especially the more that I've kind of reached out to other cities around us, like Sacramento and San Francisco. It's the level of support that I have here is unmatched. And I'm sure that could be fostered elsewhere, but it's so easy here because people are so like they feel hungry for it.
Yeah.
You know, and so that has been an amazing gift to just be really supported by the community in terms of my art school and my painting practice, both of it.
Right.
They've really just held me and have been so uplifting. So that's a huge gift to be here and to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. I would agree.
Yeah.
Chico's a great place for artists.
It really is. It really is. Yeah, it feels special in that way. You know, where like it's not like there aren't a lot of artists here. There's a ton of artists, you know, but there really is just a lot of love for artists here. Yeah. Which is kind of the overall vibe, I think. And that's unique.
Yeah. That's really important to, you know, feel like people are showing up for you.
Yeah, it's everything. Community is everything.
Yeah. There's a two-way street when it comes to most art and artists and their practices, and they need some response to what they're doing, and Chico provides.
Chico does provide. I feel like Chico's like my bestie that would like get behind whatever I wanted to do.
Yes.
You know? And it's like
they're down for whatever.
Yeah. And so genuine too.
Yes.
You know, like they just want to support people who are making things. Like there's an energy that is really unmatched.
Yeah.
Behind one here.
Yeah. Well, now's a great time to, like, we've hinted at the coloring book and the illustrations. I'm holding the Make More Art coloring book by Amma, which you can get on Amazon.
Yeah, you can Google my name on Amazon
Yes.
or search my name on Amazon, and that is a really exciting thing. So
yes, it's beautiful.
Thank you. Shout out to my dear friend and coworker, Rebecca Canterbury. She is the one that actually put the whole book together for me. And,
awesome.
Has edited my Mother's Milk book, which is the name of my residency and the coffee table book that I'm producing. So
love that.
That will be available on Amazon probably next week.
Oh, so exciting.
It's very exciting. I'm going to have a book signing party.
Awesome.
Coming up soon. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And there's a lot happening in the studio right now, actually, if this would be a good time to plug that.
Yes. Yeah.
So I started to do adult painting classes. I'm running an intermediate and beginning abstract painting class this spring.
Awesome.
I just launched all of my kids' art camps for the summer. So I'm doing 10 weeks of summer camps.
Awesome.
Every week will be different. So different mediums, different projects. So you can sign up for multiple weeks, which is cool. And I've been doing a lot of birthday parties in the studio, which is really fun. It's so freaking fun for adults and kids. So love those. It's really fun to have studio birthday parties.
Yeah.
And those are my favorite. When I was little, I used to tell my mom I wanted to be a clown when I grew up. And I kind of feel like I'm living out that dream when I do birthday parties.
Totally.
It's really great.
That's awesome.
So yeah, there's lots happening. You can sign up for my newsletter to get all of the details at
keep up with everything that
all
you're
the
up to. Yes.
Yeah. There's a lot of offerings going on. Oh, and I also do monthly. In the new year, I started to do monthly art dates for adults.
Oh, cool.
So those are once a month. And usually I'm collaborating with somebody else in the community for those. I've been collaborating with Chelsea Smith from Freebird Yoga to introduce meditation in painting, which is really dear to my heart. And then this next month in April, I'm doing a collaboration with Natalie B, who does flowers and floral design. And we're doing floral jelly printing.
Oh, cool.
Have you done jelly printing?
I haven't.
You are going to be obsessed. You need to come. You can come on me for having me on the podcast.
Awesome.
But it's really cool. It's a really cool modern form of printmaking, and you can make these impressions of the flowers. So taking something temporary and creating a permanent piece of art from it.
Cool.
Really rad. So those monthly art dates are happening every month, once a month for the year.
Cool.
So stay tuned and come. They're sponsored by Sierra Nevada, so we have
amazing
Strange Beast hard kombucha, which is really fun.
Love it.
Yeah, love to have you guys there.
Amazing.
Yeah,
very cool.
They're really fun.
Well, that sounds awesome, and I'm so excited to see how things progress with your master's program starting in the fall.
Thanks.
Wow.
I know. I'm so exciting. I'm so excited. It was one of those things that was on my to-do list for like 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, it's totally time right now.
Yeah.
I realized it was time, and then I looked at the deadline and it was 2 weeks away, and I was like, I'm just going to see what happens.
Yeah.
So it's meant to be, clearly.
Totally.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm stoked. Thank you for the support in that.
Of course. It's very exciting.
It is. Exciting. I know. I love it. I love it.
So you can find Amma at ammaposey.com. And what is your Instagram handle? You've got a couple.
Yeah. Amma Posey Studios I've just kind of transitioned that to being just my painting practice.
Okay.
And then what was formerly Art Camp Family is now Happy Art Family.
Love it.
So that we can do adults, events, parties, and kids classes all in one spot.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Great. So you can go find her there. And thanks again for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
So fun.
Yeah. This was awesome.
Yeah.
And we will see you around town. Bye.
Bye.
You only call me when you're lonely, darling, when you wanted something to change.
If you love what we're doing with the show, please consider becoming a supporter for as little as $5 a month. And if nothing else, subscribing and leaving us a review on your favorite podcast player is always very much appreciated and will help other people find us and the stories we share. You can find Chico Creates on Instagram at chico.creates. Thank you for listening and being part of our community.